Next up is Akshay Patel and Seth Bertalotto. The topic is Grunt Your World. So let's give everybody a big hand for Akshay and Seth.
So just before we get started, anyone here use Grunt before? Just so we know. Oh, I guess I'll go home now.
Yeah.
We're done.
All right. Thanks, guys.
This will be quick. So we're going to use this talk to tell you guys about how we use Grunt in Yahoo Media and some of the projects that Dave and Karady talked about yesterday using Modown. We have a set of Grunt scripts, tools, whatever you may want to call it, that we use, and we're going to walk you through some of them, some of our process in CI. So yeah, here we go. Last week, Adi Osmani had a really good talk about front-end workflows, and I just stole this slide from him. I hope he doesn't mind. These are all the things we do every day. I mean, it's ridiculous how the task and role of a front-end have changed in today's world. I mean, we used to do HTML and CSS and, write widgets in JavaScript, and now we have to do things like write build scripts. We have to worry about testing and continuous integration, performance, measuring all of it. It goes on and on. Kind of makes me feel like that. The best thing you can do from this, if you are doing something repetitive, automate it. It's a no-brainer. If you're not automating it, you need to start thinking about it. There's hundreds of tools out there. You can automate basically every piece of a workflow these days. Someone talked about the WTF library earlier, which is awesome. You can measure everything that's going on inside your web browser in terms of frame rates, how painting happens, and you can analyze it, which is awesome. Tools, hundreds of tools. There's Grunt, Bower, Yeoman, Browserify that Luke just demoed before this. Use them. They are for you. Do not run away from them. If you're working on JavaScript, you're working on Node, embrace open source. There's so much out there that other people have already done. You don't need to worry about it. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. Use something that's already out there. It will make your workflow better. You will be done with your job way faster, and you can actually concentrate on what you're good at. So since you guys already know about Grunt, for the people that don't, Grunt is a command line-based tool. It's got a really nice API. It runs on Node. There's a lot of plugins out there, huge ecosystem. There's a plugin for almost everything I've tried to look for so far. And it uses NPM, so you can pull in other plugins using NPM. You can hook into it super easy. I'll show you guys in just a minute. And if you guys have used any sort of make files, rake files, and whatever, it's the same idea. You have an API, you can write tasks, and you can write them in JavaScript. So front ends, this is beautiful. You cannot ever complain again that, oh, I don't want to write something in Ant. You can write in JavaScript. It's great. So how do you use it? Super easy. If you used NPM before, you just install the command line tool globally. You touch this file called the Grunt file, and as soon as you add the Grunt file, it's available to add tasks to, load tasks from, add configuration to, the whole shebang. An easy example is adding JS hint. I mean, we all use lint, hint, whatever your favorite tools are. You can install it. As soon as you install it, it's going to be available in your node modules directory, and then you just open up your Grunt file. You can add a little bit of config, talking about describe what files you want to lint, and voila. All you have to do after that, in your command line, you run Grunt.js hint, and it will do all the work for you. I'm going to show you guys a simple demo. So Grunt's already installed here. If you do grunt help, it's going to list out all the tasks that are available in your project. There's quite a few here that we're going to demo to you guys shortly. So this is handy. If you're in your repo, you have multiple tasks. You can run this, find out what's going on. You can also do what I was showing you guys earlier. There's something broken. I will fix that later. Anyway, that's just a small demo of how you run your Grunt scripts. I'm going to show you guys a bunch of common scripts that people outside Yahoo, people inside Yahoo, just common things we do as front ends. And I'll walk you through some simple demos, and then Seth is going to take over. The simplest one, Sass. I'm sure a lot of you guys have used Sass, and one of the annoying things about Sass is that you have to compile it to CSS. And luckily, there's a nice grunt task for this, and you can just do grunt compass, and it will create a file for you. I can show you guys what it looks like. So assuming, oh, where did it go? There we go. That's my Sass file. I want to add something here saying, I don't know, background. And it will create a new file. And if you go back and check the compiled file, it will have the stuff you need. That's the correct one. Anyways, but again, you don't want to have to go back and do this over and over again. So luckily, there's another plugin for that called Grunt Watch, and that's also useful for running build commands, JS hint, whatever you want. I'll run a Grunt Watch. It's a basic file watcher. You can describe what patterns you want to watch for, and based on patterns, you want to run specific build scripts or code quality scripts or linting scripts. So I have the watch task running here. I'm going to go back to that semicolon I had missing. I'll put it back. You'll see that a file changed, and I'm lint free now, which is awesome when you're developing in Sass or JavaScript, either of those, because it can continuously compile as you save. You don't have to keep your eyes out. It will complain. If my sound was on, you could hear it beep if something failed. So anytime there's a failure, my sound goes off, making a cracking sound, and you know, oh crap, I need to go back. Same thing with Sass. I added a new declaration, and it compiles for you. Good stuff. If you use handlebars, you can do grunt handlebars. There's another built-in plugin. And it just kind of takes everything in your templates directory. For example, I have a simple partial, and I have an example. All it does is it takes those and compiles them into a namespace that you can pick. Here's all you have to do to get handlebars to compile where you want. You pick a destination, you pick a directory, and all the handlebar templates in it. You pick a namespace, and it will generate this beautiful file you can include on your client side and use it with YUI, use it with jQuery, Ember, whatever you need. Apart from that, I showed you guys handlebars, watch file changes, simple stuff, and CI. This is where Seth comes in, and he gets to talk about all the crazy stuff we do with our node setup in Yahoo Media.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of what we're doing in media is we have a lot of teams across a lot of different properties and projects, and we want to automate all this, right? But we want it to be done the same way. So we want to have a certain structure, a certain file structure, a certain way that people do tests, these lint, and all that stuff. So this kind of helps us as we go through, and we're standardizing on this across all these different properties. So one of them is minifying images. As you can see, he's smaller. So here it'll basically just run it through, I think, JPEG Mini, and basically remove any extra metadata that you don't need to actually display the image, and kind of reduce the file size of that.
And
so we can
to
show you
guys, we've set up we're just using the defaults here. We're not doing anything. We had some basic images in here. It's pretty handy. I mean, we all go open up Fireworks, we open up Image Optim, Image Alpha, all sorts of stuff. If you actually have either of those programs on your Mac, you can even tell the ImageMin script, hey, I want to use Image Alpha, I want to use Image Optim, and if you have any presets there, it will load them up from the application, save them to the directory you want. Very handy, repetitive task, and this is all you have to do to set it up. Very nice.
I think one thing I'd like to show, the grunt file, the actual grunt file that
Yep.
we have as well. So these are all for each task that you have, you can do configuration. But this is pretty much a really simplified one A lot of times you'll see all the configuration in this file, but as you start getting more than 5 or 6, whatever, you want to put them into separate files so it's just easier to organize. So here it's really simple to create the tasks, load them all from NPM, and then actually register different aliases for tasks that you want to run together. So it's really simple. So the next one, CSS proc, was actually written by Dave Glass. And we created a Grunt task wrapper around that to basically, all it does is it looks through your CSS files, looks for any local file paths, and switches them out with the CDN version. So it's really useful. You don't have to go and do it yourself or however else you're doing it before. So you can see that real quick. Let's build. Yeah. Or not. Just trust us, it works.
Yeah, we promise it works. It should be in here.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you later.
We
Local
promise
path,
it'll start working.
CDN path, or host name. So, and we're going to open source this later too, so it'll work for you then. So the next one is what we call asset loader. So yesterday, Kerry already talked about Express YUI and how it can build up all the configuration you need to get YUI working on the client via the server. And so we leverage that to build up these assets and be able to load them dynamically on the client. So the idea behind this is Express YUI will go through your project, look for YUI modules, and build out the metadata for all those things. So that includes looking at the requires and building out this whole graph of all the requirements it needs to load that. And so if you show the file, the example, we basically roll that up into this awful looking file that's minified. But if you show the clean one, the raw version, you can get an idea of what it is. This is actually one of our projects that has all these different files, and it's just load and config that YUI will use on the client to build that out. And then when you actually use the module, when you do like a YUI use, foo, then that'll go in and actually download the source files and then instantiate it and do all that. So this does look big, but minifies, compresses nicely, and so it's just metadata. It's not the actual source of the files. It just tells YUI how to get them and which ones it needs to actually to run it and build it. And then we have our own deployment task as well that will basically upload it to our CDN servers. This is the configuration that we have, but there's ones out there that for like Amazon S3 that you can use that are already out. But this is the one we have internally. So one of the really cool things to maintain consistency across all our projects is Grunt init, which is a separate NPM module, but one that obviously works with Grunt. And it basically builds out the scaffolding for your project. So you can have kind of custom, different archetypes that you want to support and build out. So we have a very simple one that will build an NPM module for you. And it'll give you some prompts that it'll show right here. So here, you can customize what prompts you actually want it to say. So if you read this as name, what you want to name your module, description, all that stuff. It'll automatically take your name and your email from your Git config, if you have one. And then you can fill all this other stuff in. Say no. And then that basically builds out, the README file and anything else that you want to have in there. And it supports replacement, so you can, based on the name that you choose, it'll name the file that way. It'll name the module and anything else. So in this case, this doesn't do anything. It's like a console log to the lib. But,
yep.
But it's really nice across all these teams that we can have a consistent file structure and how we set up tests and all that stuff. And it's really easy and painless to use. The caveat is the last bullet, where it's almost deprecated. It's not deprecated, but it may be in the future. So they're saying in favor to use Yeoman generators. But I wish I knew that ahead of time when I started building out a bunch of scaffolding for it. But that's okay. I still like it. It's really easy to use if you have really simple settings and easy that you want. So we like it. So this one, sniffers. It's essentially, sniffers, if you go to the next slide, is essentially
I was enjoying it.
is our way to use Grunt to create linting of any sorts for the code. So it's like what we have here is a console log check. So a lot of times you may check in code that has a bunch of console logs all over the place, and you forget to remove them, get checked in, they go on the server, and then you're spamming your logs, and we've all done it, at least I have. So in this case, what this will do is it'll run through all the whatever files, JavaScript files, anything you want, and just look for the console log statement, or just console, and it'll print out what it finds. Let me show it here. Prints that out, gives you the line number, position, all that stuff, and it's using Esprima to parse the file. So that's really nice, and we put that in our build system so that we can flag them and either send warnings, or you can even break the build if it's a certain sniffer that you want to you never want to go out to production. Some of the other ones we have are we have a bunch of template helpers for the templating engine we use, which is Dust, and we like to enforce if you're not using image tags, make sure you use the image helper, things like that. So we're consistent across projects. And then release. So release is basically really simple. It's just a combination of all the other tasks that we run together. So in this case, we'll run the CSS proc, minification, the asset loader, deployment, all those things. So, and that's one line that you add to your grunt file to create them. So that'll build all that, and then if you have a deploy task, it'll send it up to the server, and you'll be done with it.
And another nice thing that Grunt does is you can chain any number of tasks. So if you see here, we just registered an alias for release, and you can pass in an array of as many tasks as you want. Like Seth said earlier, we clean out the build directory, then we run CSS proc, and then the magic happens.
So CSS proc, it's a really simple task that we're going to get open sourced pretty soon. Probably, we'll try to do it next week or something. And then for the sniffers, we have a nice way to load. You can have a bunch of sniffers in your tasks, and we have a nice way to load those through Grunt and have them available. So we'll have that open source as well. It's a real simple task. And as we develop more that are not just Yahoo or project specific, we'll be sending those out as well. And of course, as you all know,
we're hiring.
If you haven't heard, Yahoo's hiring. So that's who you can contact.
If you like working on sports jobs, if you like working on platformy stuff, media jobs, I recommend sports. There you go. Thank you to our friend Kitzman there. He found all the awesome pictures for us. I figured I'd make him feel awkward.
Yeah.
And
Great.
if
We
you
have
guys
time
have
for
questions.
There we go.
It's not so much a question, but I Grunt init. I actually wrote a Grunt init UE tool that you can initialize UE modules, UE gallery modules, and all from a handy-dandy command line app. It's pretty
Awesome.
cool. It's on NPM Grunt init UE, but yeah, it's cool. Cool presentation.
Awesome.
Right. Thanks. So make sure you do that in Yeoman too.
Actually, I have a question for you. When you're dealing with, you're chaining a number of tasks together, and one of the tasks has like a REST API requirement. Do you have any tasks like that where you have to go and fetch data and bring it back and then respond to that?
Generally, no. I mean, we don't have that use case that we use.
Our asset task it would qualify the closest thing to that, where we upload, we wait for a response code, and then depending on the response code we get back from that API, we'll push the asset. So we actually do use it for our uploading our assets, but nothing apart from that. No hitting actual web services.
Do you have any more questions? Last call for questions. Oh, here we go.
Have you guys had to do anything in terms of the performance of various tasks as the projects that you're using Grunt to build have grown? Have you run into any performance bottlenecks, and what have you done about them? Thanks.
Yeah, the interesting one is the ExpressYY one, where it needs to parse your project, and if you have a bunch of dependencies and they have YY modules, and then those are blah, 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 down the chain. So that can sometimes take a little bit just to load it and get all that. But Actually, that one's small. The other one would be deploying and actually putting it up on CDN. I think originally we had it like serially doing it. It would take obviously forever. So once we switched that to asynchronously, it cut down a lot of the time. So you have to be mindful of that. But the most performance issue you're going to get is just time and how long it takes to do a lot of those tasks. But that's most of it.
I have one more question since there's no more. What were you dealing with before using Grunt? Do you use Ant or one of the other ones? Like, was there a big migration step that you had to take, a lot of learning curve? Or?
I'm trying to think of.
Well, I think it depends on what system you worked on. Some people used Makefile, some people used some custom PHP scripts, so it was kind of scattered all over the place.
Yeah, at Yahoo right now, a lot of it was, the previous project was Makefiles and using that to do it. And projects I've used Ant. But just being out of XML and into JavaScript has been so much better. So the learning curve is a lot easier than maybe learning Ant or something like that, I feel anyways.
And I think the one huge thing that at least Grunt has is they have a really well-documented API, and the community is huge. So even if you don't know something, it's a matter of searching it, and then you figure it out in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any more questions? All right. Well, let's give these guys a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks.